Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy and governance. I am Shafiu Suleiman. The presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Bola Tinubu, has pledged to address security and economic challenges with devil in the north if elected president come 2023. Tinubu made the pledge during a presidential rally in Kaduna on Tuesday. During the rally, the presidential candidate also assured Nigerians that they will not regret voting him into power in the 2023 general elections. He says if elected into office, his government will create jobs for the youths and provide an enabling environment for farmers with inputs to enhance agricultural production.
Addressing the party supporters at the Kaduna rally, the APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu said, addressing the challenges of the North will enable the region witness development in all spheres.
To remain loyal to our country, you will never regret it. Inshallah, all those troublemakers, violent kidnappers, killers, all troublemakers, I assure you, we will eliminate them.
Earlier, the chairman of the party, Abdullah Adamu, and the director general of the APC presidential campaign and governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong, urged people of the Northwest and the North in general to vote APC for economic prosperity of the region. For prosperity, development, and security of the North, I urge all of you to vote for APC and Aswaju in 2023 election for the continuation of the good work started by President Muhammadu Buhari. Aswaju has the capacity and the competency to lead the nation. He has good plans for women and youth. National chairman of the party, Abdullah Adamu, handed over flags to presidential candidate of the party, Bola Tinubu, Kaduna APC governorship candidate Obasani, and other candidate of the state and national assembly. Security agencies and vigilante groups were deployed in and around the venue of the rally to ensure the safety of the crowd. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
Now, away from the APC campaign rally that is in the Northwest, we also had the People's Democratic Party presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar making, similar promises at the campaign rally today in Plateau State. The presidential candidate of the PDP promised, to restore peace and improve economic activities in the state. He also added that if elected, he will ensure his administration sees to the reconstruction of the federal roads linking Plateau and other neighboring states.
I have been a resident in this state for the past 28 years. We have promised that we will restore peace in this state. We will also revamp the economy of this state. We will also make sure this state is connected to the neighboring states as far as the road infrastructures are concerned. APC has neglected all the roads connecting Plateau with other states in the country. We promise, because you are a PDP state, we promise we will make sure these roads are rehabilitated. We will revamp the economy. We will bring about peace and prosperity, particularly to our young men and women.
By the people of Nigeria, and that is you. When you left PDP, PDP left you, and you started suffering. Do you want PDP to come back? Yes. Will you live again? No. And therefore, I want to thank you for coming out in such large numbers because this party is going to rebuild the party and rebuild the country. The last time I was here, I came to see how I can put the party together. And I'm happy that whatever cracks existed in the party, it is all over.
And now to other matters. The Nigerian Senate has also commenced the process of amending the Act establishing the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) to guarantee security of tenure of the chairman of the commission. One of the main objectives of the bill is to subject the termination of the appointment of the EFCC chairman to the confirmation of the National Assembly, and to also establish continuity and consistency in the anti-graft agency. Now take a look.
The piece of legislation sponsored by Minority Whip of the Senate, Chukwuka Otazi, was deliberated upon after the lead debate in plenary.
For other anti-graft agencies created through the legislative instrumentality before and later, that is, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, and Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, the National Assembly ensured that the headship had security of tenure by ensuring that their appointments and removal, as the case may be, were subject to the confirmation of the Senate. That was not the case with the EFCC. Therefore, in this proposed amendment, it is intended to bring EFCC in conformity with the other two anti-graft agencies of government. This will engender optimal performance of the commission, performance by the commission of the very important mandate assigned to it.
While supporting the passage of the proposed bill, a cross-section of lawmakers believe that the bill will promote professionalism while enhancing the capacity of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC.
We have a situation in this country where the leadership of EFCC was unceremoniously removed because of perceived political differences. In this case, Mr. President, it will not promote professionalism. It will not promote continuity.
If we restrict the chairmanship of EFCC to only staff of EFCC, we may be limiting ourselves. Because a situation may arise where we have a capable hand who has done similar things in a similar agency, maybe outside the country, and we may want to bring him to come and improve on the agency we have in Nigeria. By then, we must have limited ourselves because of this singular amendment we want to do.
In his submission, the Senate President Ahmed Lawal noted that the argument has been on whether or not it was right to have an outsider to head the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission.
Let's tie down this thing properly when we come to public hearing. Or the committee should work hard to ensure that while we are looking for somebody from inside, that person, when picked, should be able to survive, should be able to have the support of his colleagues to succeed.
After consideration, the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes was given a 4-week deadline for further legislative action.
These and many more issues, of course, will be discussed on the program tonight. But for now, we have to take a short break. When we return, the conversation continues.
documenting the Nigerian story.
Thank you very much for staying with us. It's still daily politics, and of course, we are commencing the conversation. We have in the studio at the moment Emmanuel Osemeka, who is a political analyst. Emmanuel, thank you for joining us.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Also joining us for the discussion is Mukhtar Suleiman, who is a personal assistant, political analyst rather. Beg your pardon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right. Okay, together we'll be looking at political campaign and the need to focus on the issues. You would agree with me that it has been an era of reaching out, especially by politicians, those vying for presidency. Now we have the three, if you like, frontline presidential candidates, at different states, rather in different states of the north. At North Central, we have Atiku Abubakar, that is in Plateau today. We also had Peter Obi, the Labour Party presidential candidate in Kogi State. And then in the northwest, we have the presidential candidate of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, all trying to reach out to the electorate. Let's start with the APC presidential candidate, for instance. The northwest is seen as a stronghold, of the APC, and again, the region is also one of the major, if you like, voting blocks of the APC and, of course, the country in general. I'm sure you must have watched, that rally in Kaduna, the crowd, and of course, the promises. Let's start with the crowd, for instance. Is it befitting, if you like, or does it clearly, make that statement that here, is an enclave of the APC, for instance, talking about the Northwest?
Thank you so much for having me. Good evening. First things first, I don't think it does. Gathering crowd for campaigns and rally does not really translate to mandates. That's something that we actually need to pay attention to. But does it necessarily mean that the Northwest is not a key state? Of course, it's a key swing state in the country, because we don't know which way it will sway at this point, because on one hand, we have politics must politique, as I've always said in this program. On one hand, we have the sentiments of culture and religion playing at the fore from both parties. And on the other hand, we have to also fight with that in tandem with what do we really want and the trajectory of the country that we actually want to see post 2023. So it's a bit tricky to say at this point, because I can guarantee you that if Atiku Abubakar is going to Kaduna, for example, today, he's going to have a large mass of, we saw the campaign of, you saw the people they garnered in Plateau State. Yeah. In Plateau State.
He was also in Kaduna before now.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, thank you so much for reminding me. He was actually in Kaduna. We saw the population of people who actually welcomed him. So the population at the campaign and the party rallies does not really translate to the mandate. But we're watching, we're seeing, we're hoping that it actually the whole thing unfolds. One of the few things I know I looked forward to when the campaign was starting back in September was drama. And it has not fallen short of my money's worth. So I'm hoping.
Are you saying it is more of drama than issue-based?
Yeah, because I was actually even coming into that, because there's been a lot of red herring in the campaign trail. We've had a lot of people doing a lot of ad hominem, where you attack a person's character as opposed to attacking issues. We need to actually find a way to bring it back to being an issue-based campaign that people can pinpoint specifically what are the agendas that you want from each of your candidates, what are the things that you need them to focus on when they go forward, what would your vote say about the trajectory of the country in 2023 as opposed to the personal attack that we're actually doing. So we have to vote for ideologies, we have to vote for trajectories, and we have to vote for agendas.
Okay, looking at the issues, we won't say that perhaps the presidential candidates are also talking about issues. Take, for instance, Tinubu in Kaduna was also talking about some key issues that have been bedeviling the northern parts of the country. For instance, he talks about securing the north. Yesterday he was in Benungwari, which is one of the most ravaged, areas by banditry and all of that. Again, he talks about completing, if you like. He shows some level of commitment to one of the key projects, that has become, one of the most interesting, projects of this administration. Talking about the AKK, that is the, Abuja, Kano, Kaduna pipeline. He talked about completing it because of its economic value and what have you, and its potential of rekindling, if you like, or reigniting the industries that were there before. I think he's talking about issues. What do you make up with that?
For me, I wouldn't want to go, too far away from what my friend talked about clearly. The truth is, as when the candidates emerged from the PDP, the APC, Labour Party, NMPP, and of course our brother AAC, right? That's right? Then the SDP guy. Fantastic area of lovely politicians with eggheads, if you must say that. But unfortunately, Nigerian politics being what it is, for me, I believe a lot of them have wasted from September till date. They've wasted it, with name calling, whether somebody is sick or somebody is from a particular region or somebody didn't do this or didn't do that. The truth is that you can't look at yesterday. You can't go back to yesterday, rather. Yesterday is gone. Every politician, be it the APC candidate, the presidential candidate you're talking about, or Atiku Abubakar of the PDP, they will all make promises when they get to a particular state. They will be giving scripts regarding the state and what the people, what will resonate with the people in order to garner the vote they need. Benungwari is a good place to go. It's a strategic move by the APC candidate. But you see, visiting the place is not enough, or should I say, is it enough? Because what many of us would ask is, APC is in power. They've been in power for 8 years. What have you done for Benungwari?
At both federal and state level.
At both federal and state level. What have you done for Benungwari all this while? And so, like one analyst said one anchor of a program said on television that one of the errors he saw that the APC candidate made at the Chatham House was they asked a question on security, which he believes that the APC candidate has the capacity to give very intelligent response, but he pushed it to Nasiru El-Rufai.
Well, that's talking about team, spirit also. Yes. Some will say, to some extent, he was there with his supposed team and he delegated questions and what have you. I don't want us to dwell on that, but we're still talking about, the issues being raised. In Jos, the Plateau State capital, the presidential candidate of the PDP also made promises. Some will say the usual kind of promises, talking about security, there is hunger in the land, need to construct roads that will link, state and other state, and all of that. Some will say Nigerians are tired of some of these promises. Over 60 years of independence, we're still talking about, constructing roads. We're still talking about water, and so on. How shouldn't we grow, beyond this?
Yes, we can. I think politics is a market. It's a buying and selling commodity. The people who sell, which are the politicians, will not sell what we, the people, ourselves, the common man, will not buy. I think it's because we've accommodated it and we're still accommodating it, and that's why it's actually still a thing. For me, I've always said that when we're delving into the campaign season and looking forward on routes to 2023, it has always been an argument of demystify the content of your promises. Break it down to what are the low-hanging fruits into a short-term goal. Okay, your first 100 days in office, which is actually very key and pivotal to your administration when it starts. What are the things that we know are realistically tenable within that period? Then what are your medium-term goals and what are your long-term goals? Because we know how the tenure system works in Nigeria. You win the elections, you use the first year or first 6 months to celebrate, you use the next 6 months to select your cabinet, you work for 1 year, and then you start planning for re-election, which is actually which is one of the flaws of democracy anyway. But I think we actually need to look back at it and see how we can push the candidate to not just tell us, oh, we're going to tackle insecurity. Yes, we agree. Insecurity is a problem. You're going to tackle insecurity in Plateau State. You're going to tackle insecurity in Kaduna State. But break it down for me, number it down. What are the metrics we're going to use to hold you accountable as to how you intend to carry out the plan to ensure that you can tackle down insecurity? If you win in February, you're sworn in May 29. What are you going to do between May 29 and August? That we can say, okay, these are clear steps. You don't have to tell us the plan per se, but you can tell us what the metrics are. Because if you tell us the plan, obviously you're not just communicating to us, maybe you're also communicating to the actors of the insecurity. So break it down for us, number it down for us, so that we can understand and we can see it and follow you. Because if we don't understand it, it will be very difficult for us to be beside you. So don't make us ambiguous promises. Make us demystify that process, demystify the promises, and let's see how we can actually plug into it and support as well.
Yeah, and beyond, individual agenda, if you like, or individual projections, shouldn't we as a country perhaps also always try to align ourselves with the national agenda? For instance, countries that have sustainable development develop because of long-term development plan that you're talking about. Nigeria, I think, recently launched as a development plan 2050 or thereabout, by the present administration. Do you see, these presidential candidates aligning themselves with this national agenda towards development, making their policy and policy directions, to key into some of these projections?
One of the biggest problems with our political tenure-based system in Nigeria is that most people who, when they come into office, because we are going to derail the conversation and make it look like, oh, this person did Buhari's project or this person did Goodluck Jonathan's project, forgetting the fact that it's actually for the benefit of the larger population of the country. So because of that, they want to build systems for themselves. They want to start something afresh. They want to hit the reset button, which is wrong. Continuity is a key component of ensuring that national interest can actually be attained. Project 2050 that for sustainability that the government launched, the question then you ask is, how much of multiple political voices had a say in that document? Because if you don't, then the new administration comes, they can just kick it off and say they want to launch their own Project 2060, Project 2070. Any administration can actually
By the way, we had also failed national agendas,
yes.
Vision 2010, 2020, and all of that.
Thank you so much. So we actually need to look inwards very carefully, and because now it's not like before. I think more and more there's reduced political apathy in terms of how governance structures work. So we need to ask the right questions. We need to know where to channel our grievances effectively to put the pressure that is necessary for us to actually attain the development and reach where we actually want to go as a country.
Okay, he was talking about something very fundamental earlier, that is talking about the how. What are you the one talking about? Some of these politicians will tell you that, okay, we're going to provide security, we're going to build an infrastructure and all of that. But in most cases, what is lacking is the strategy. How do we attain this? No one is not talking about building infrastructure, because everyone knows that building infrastructure is key. No one is not talking about securing the people because of the insecurity bedeviling the country and all of that. No one is not talking about economy. But what can they do differently? Did you see them, talking about some of this, policy directions or policy mechanics that would help them achieve these objectives?
I think the candidate of the SDP was very particular about the house, and he broke down, in details.
Why do you single out the PDP, the SDP?
Not just him, man. I mean, the SDP candidate was one. The Labour Party candidate was also another person who, the Labour Party candidate has repeatedly talked about moving from
consumption
to production, which even,
but how do we move?
Which even the First Lady, talked about it. The Vice President also echoed the issue of Nigeria moving from consumption, because we've been a consuming nation. You've just talked about the issue of national agenda, and we've never lacked national agenda. The issue is, just like he mentioned, how many other voices do you have? Because you have this winner takes it all syndrome. Besides President Olusegun Obasanjo, in 1999 when he won and he formed the government of national unity. Remember, he brought in the APP guys, brought in the AD and the rest of them. But of course, the political elite said he strangulated opposition by so doing. But we had, some level of progress because within that first tenure of government, the economy of Nigeria grew by 15%. I don't know if you remember, if you recall.
So you're not talking about a team. Are you saying that there's lack of, there's
because there was cohesion.
The right people to drive the process.
There was cohesion. There was cohesion. There was national cohesion. Or if I'm trying not to use the word consensus, because that's what has been, abused and misused, consistently. We borrowed our presidential system from the American way. But the American presidential system or democratic, experiment is completely different from Nigerian system. Some would argue that, we should domesticate what works for us. But what we are doing does not work for us because it begs the question that the candidates are not speaking to the issues. Even when they have the platform, they rather use it to, abuse one another or talk about the deficiencies of one another. I believe also that debate should be made mandatory because it is on the debate floor that you are able to espouse what you want to do and the question of how can come in. But today, many of them are running from
and you subject
debate.
yourself, to the scrutiny
of
the public,
Absolutely.
and the electorate. Talking about this debate issue, but some would say we're not lacking, platforms, even if some of them are not particular, or not aligning themselves with a particular platform. There are a number of platforms to engage them. But again, you also raise a question. Why are presidential candidates, for instance, seeking people's mandate, running away from engaging the people directly? Because just like you said, this is where the electors would interrogate you on your policies and how you intend to deliver them, beyond just mentioning them on the surface and of course the normal rhetorics that we see.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think the red herring and the ad hominem approach that we have been using for the political campaigns have actually had a big issue and a big influence as to how the campaign trajectory that we're actually going. I think more and more of us, like I said, I also said this earlier, that politics is a market. There's a buying and selling going on. More and more of us need to realize that how we approach issues matters to how those people who are vying for office are going to respond to those issues. Let me put a disclaimer before I say what I want to say. I'm not in any way campaigning for anybody, or neither am I trying to say I understand any. I'm just trying to make a point.
Okay.
There's a large, if you go online, there is a large mass of people who are attacking the person of Tinubu a whole lot, cherry picking him a lot of the time, and it affects. This man is still a man with emotions. I don't know if you understand my point.
Just like they also do to other candidates.
No, I agree. I'm not saying that they don't do it to other candidates, but I'm saying that the amount of hate, the level of hate that he has accrued, whether he had earned the hate or whether he does not deserve it
or lack of understanding.
Either ways, whatever it is that is
I beg to differ on that.
No. However it is, because now I'm not just speaking about one candidate. I'm actually going round. It's crazy because now it's making the man complained the last time that he's wary of how he's going to approach people, because people are insulting him a lot online. The same thing goes on one camp, the same thing goes for Peter Obi. You see a lot of people with the whole attack on his person, the whole attack on his character. This makes it very difficult sometimes for people to engage, for them to engage. I'm not saying that they should actually build a thick skin for these things, because it is normal.
Whoever throws his hat in the race, of course, in the ring rather, that.
Of course.
You are subject to
scrutiny. Because you see situations where they openly say in statements that they are willing to play dirty. It's headlines. These are news headlines.
I think that should be credited to Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself.
He's making it, but anyway, we know
he said it himself that he's going to run dirty.
I think I understand what he's trying to.
I don't know if you. I really hope you do understand the point I'm trying to make. When things like that come up and then we accept it and then we engage with it, then we should not. Let's say if you call for the rain, we're ready to dance with the mud. We're ready to deal with the mud. So when we accept those kinds of comments, those kinds of statements from them, of course, be rest assured that the trajectory of their campaign is not going to be.
But is it also the right way to engage them? You talked about how they've been bashed left, right, and center, people calling them names and
whatnot. Of course.
Is that the way the followership should also behave?
No, it shouldn't.
Because if you want to, you want to engage a prospective leader, perhaps you have the issues that you want to engage him with. You should be able to articulate these issues. I mean, ask him questions and demand for answers, and then gauge his responses also too, and his capacity to deliver on such promises beyond just calling name callings, and of course making statements that are also unpalatable.
We really need to check that, and I have to say this: I find it utterly disrespectful that the presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu found it fitting to go to Chatham House to grant his own. Whatever it is that he did, the parade that he did at the Chatham House, but found it a bit, he didn't think it was okay to engage with the media of the people he is vying to serve. Chatham House is in the UK. I've never seen a time where the UK Prime Minister vying for office comes to Nigeria to come and address people in the UK from Nigeria, from Nigerian media. It was utterly disrespectful. It was very wrong. He didn't just grant him an interview to Chatham House, he also granted an interview to the BBC, but as
But is there any presidential candidate who doesn't do that? Remember, even before now, the present president, talking about President Muhammadu, was also at Chatham House. Was also with the foreign media, and virtually all of them. Peter Obi was also there.
There was engagement here at home. There was engagement at home. That was just a way to communicate to the voters in diaspora. Of course, we know they're not going to vote, but the larger community to attain credibility of some level. But the presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu has not done that at home. He has not really given that face that is necessarily needed.
Well, the campaign is still on. I think it is not right for us to conclude at this point in time. Perhaps there could be other platforms back home that they intend to engage with. But then, looking at in the first place, who defines, if you like, or who set the stage, or who set the direction for the engagement? The electorates, who should be at this point in time at a better position now to engage or to set the agenda or to set the tone for the discussions, are being left with promises that they've been hearing over the years, and sometimes ridiculous promises. How would you rate the level of the capacity also of the electorate in terms of demanding for accountability, or in terms of setting the agenda for governance?
I want to differ a little bit. I think, I hope you give me enough time, because my friend seems to be getting more of the time. I think the point here is the media has a clear responsibility of setting agenda for, prospective government, whether a new administration or a continue, there's a continuity within a political party if they win, the election. Nigeria is not yet organized, that organized. The electorate are not yet that organized, because I believe that the civil society has its own responsibility. But I believe 100% that, watching the democratic practice from the other climes, it is the media actually that sets the agenda. The media holds the candidate accountable, and I think that's one of the reasons why the APC candidate is really not happy with what is going on in some quarter of the media. However, I believe that the politicians have taken the electorate for granted for too long. From 2011 to 2015, President Jonathan said he was the most abused president ever. From 2015 till date, President Muhammadu Buhari said he's the most abused president. So we've not lacked the issue of abuse. People, when you come in, when you want to run for the #1 seat of Nigeria, first, you must understand emotional intelligence. Because if it's abuse, you will be abused. If there are secrets that you think is secret, they will no longer be secret, because people will unearth it. Some people are going to come up with disinformation. People are going to come up with misinformation. People are going to come up with fake news. But you have a responsibility to
put the record perhaps
put the record straight. And that is what the presidential candidate of APC somewhat is failing to do. I mean, I know him to be a very strategic person, okay? I believe he has fantastic media advisors, and I believe that if he is able to present himself to the media, which I think he will probably do very soon, he'll be able to handle some of these things. And
are you saying they're not responding to the issues? Because most of these issues that are in the front burner, if you like, or in the media, are issues that have been recurring, over the years.
Correct.
And in most cases, they will tell you that these issues have been trashed. So why continuously
if they've been
bringing them up?
If they've been trashed, why are they still coming up? So, for example, somebody somewhere said that President Muhammadu Buhari is somebody from Sudan or something like that. You remember? Now, what response did the president give on that? It's not everything you respond to. Sometimes you ignore things. Over time will reveal the truth. Sometimes there are things that you can't just gloss over. You have to come out and set the record straight. So, for example, let's say I'm running for office and somebody says that I was not born, like Obama was not born in America. The security service cleared him to run for office, but somebody, Donald Trump, kept pushing that Obama was not born in America.
Just like it is with...
So what did he do? He presented his birth certificate. The moment he did that, what happened? He died. So people say you didn't go to Ahmadu Bello University or you didn't go to University of Ife.
To be able to submit.
Just bring out something and show. They said Buhari didn't go to school. What did Cambridge do? He requested for his certificate and showed it. What happened? He died a natural death. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
I think you're also understanding what he's talking about. The need to respond to the issues promptly. And the need to, put the record straight. The need to come clean. When you're seeking for political office, you should be able to engage with the electorate in a frank manner, in a very most transparent manner, and all of that. Do you see? Well, I don't want us to dwell on a particular candidate.
Yes, of course.
Virtually all of them have one or two issues to grind with. Axe to grind. For Peter Obi, they've been talking about investment in what have you, and all of that. For Atiku, they will be also talking about the congressman. the involvement in the and all of that. So virtually all of them have issues too. But then, how are we, or rather, how are the Nigerian electorate engaging them, on these issues, and of course also staying on the issues to ensure that they get answers beyond, the other side of it now, abusive. They are using abusive languages and what have you.
Like Malgahi have stated, the media has the responsibility of being the fourth estate of the realm to hold the government accountable and set agendas. But however, when we say things like government, we say things like media, it's an abstraction. In the context of the actor-specific theory, it argues that individuals, like specific individuals with names and faces, are actors in the global space of either foreign policy analysis or in local government and governance structures, which is something that we actually need to look into now. 10 years ago, if you see what is the media, as somebody who studied mass communication myself, I'll tell you, the media is a vehicle for communication, and then you tell me to give you examples. I'll say a typical example of the media will be Daily Trust or other media outlets and the rest of that. So but in the context of what we have today, the media has transcended the mainstream sector. The media is now Twitter. The media is now Instagram. The media is now you and me, because as opposed to before, where we did not have access to broadcast technology to express ourselves to a large population of people simultaneously, now we do have those structures ourselves because the internet has actually provided them. So we also, from our own end, have to play our part, because for the large part of it, news is what we make of it. News, one of the key components of news is human interest. So what we all as a people try as much as what we talk about very often becomes what the trajectory of what the news is. We say the media bridges the gap between the people and the citizens. Unlike before, where we did not have direct access to tell the media and the government itself what we wanted, now we do in these platforms. So we actually need to, we as a people, as we're using these platforms, we need to actually check what our content, what are we pushing out, because we have the power now to set those agendas.
Yeah, talking about the media also setting the agenda, there has been some level of trust deficit, if you like, between the public and even the media, as it were. We're beginning to see that manifest. some media owners, if you like, or operators and so on, even professionals, sometimes do things that are questionable. People find them unprofessional. And, that also like put a dent on the image of the media itself in terms of projecting the truth, or rather standing with the people. Sometimes we take sides, or we project issues the way we felt it will favor us and all of that. How do we build this trust in the first place, so that the electorate themselves or the public themselves would have confidence in the media's ability to set this agenda that we're talking about?
I think we need to stop this pedestal mindset thing and realize that being human absolutely means that the deficit of being human is being subject to the fallibility of being human. Media operations have influence, ownership influence, not just even in Nigeria, across the globe. Let's use the United States as a typical case study. You listen to CNN, of course, they are more left-wing. MSNBC, the same thing. You listen to Fox News, they are more right-wing media. So it's the same synonymously to the Nigerian space.
Is it the same scenario?
Yes.
Because looking at what is happening here, professionalism is put at the background in most cases.
Not just even here. Now, I was actually driving to a point.
Okay.
Now, unlike the United States, I'm using as an example now, where there's a clear two-line divide of either you're a Republican or you're Democrat in your ideologies. Nigeria is not like that. We have political affiliations of the media. Does that necessarily mean that the media lies all the time? Not necessarily, but we should know when a headline is ambiguous. When we see somebody peddling, I'm not going to mention the name of the media organization, but there's a particular online newspaper that has the history, not just even one, that has a history of peddling, of putting yellow journalism at its forefront, and it's very sensational in its reports. We need to actually understand how to recognize these things and then shy away from them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we should not also look at the analysis of the fact that media ownership influences media coverage. That's what we call house style, put that in quotes. So it's also very important that as we are consuming information, we need to learn and check who is the base, what is the base, who pays the piper dictates the tune. So we need to know who.
But we're talking about disinformation, we're talking about
what is the political,
fake news, we're talking about propaganda and all of that.
I agree.
People can be paid to do most of this, and we've seen what happened
Exactly.
in the build-up to 2015, and now we're also beginning to see things manifesting.
That's why I said, if you're consuming news, look for the political affiliation of the owners of that particular station and understand how you can filter what you're actually getting from them.
So what happened to the trust now between the public and the media? I think the media also has a responsibility. It is not just about dishing out information, but also understanding the responsibility that you have.
How do you dictate what the responsibility of the media is when the parent body, like NBC, for example, who is supposed to checkmate the activities of this media and ensure standardization of media activities? Sorry, one minute, let me make the point. They're supposed to ensure standardization of the activity. The NBC itself are appointed from political affiliation for them to head that organization. So that makes it a bit difficult.
Okay, Mr. Emmanuel, it seems to be in a very, a kind of triangle now, more like a Bermuda Triangle. Either way, there is always an issue. Now, from the regulators to the operators to the owners, how do we reconcile these issues?
I don't 100% agree that the owners of the media houses or the proprietors of media houses actually influence largely what happens, because news is news. Because most often, if you take a look at the headline on, say, Trust, Daily Trust, you go across 8 newspapers, it's the same. It might be coined slightly different, but it's the same news, because they all fetch their news from almost the same place.
Yeah, depending on the direction.
Exactly. The body work might differ a little bit. So that way, yes, I might. But when it comes to probably the broadcast houses, you might have some analysis that are tilted, with some level of partisanship. So, for example, between 2014 2015 election, you had one, it was very clear which media house stood, but not necessarily that they were card carrying. Yes, one was very clear where it belonged because they didn't hide it. Okay, probably two were very clear where they belonged, but one was not. One was not. But over time, you see them move from what you call the left to the right. So it's a bit difficult to decipher what prompts or promotes the direction, like you clearly mentioned or you said in passing, that people might be just paid to do certain job. And it doesn't always mean that, that the media house is now vested or they're left wing or they're right wing. That's my personal opinion. I mean, because I've seen over time, I've been appearing in media houses severally. In fact, I was used by some media houses without knowing that I was being used for for the hatchet job.
Yes. Okay, now talking about changing the narratives, if you like, or correcting the wrongs. You earlier talked about the civil society, the responsibility of the civil society in terms of voter education and what have you.
Absolutely.
But I don't know how would you rate perhaps the involvement, if you like, of the engagement of civil society with the election as we approach, February, general elections. Now, we haven't seen much of the civil society's activities like we used to see. Perhaps in most cases it happens during the election. During the election period.
Yes.
You find them at the observation point and what have you. But when it comes to engagement and enlightenment of the electorate, is there something like it?
Okay, so I'll start this way. I'm a member of the civil society organizations in Nigeria, and the civil society in Nigeria is still evolving. And what you see today is as a result of the political climate.
Okay.
I must say, without fear or favor, the government is not very friendly with the civil society. I must be very honest with you. Yes, the atmosphere is not very friendly with the civil society because it is in this administration that twice you had a bill that came to gag the civil society, whereas there are a lot of regulations.
What do you mean by gagging now? Because civil society organizations are operating at various levels.
Just a moment, sir, because I'm driving it. I'm driving it somewhere. So, for example, over time, yes, I know that there are civil societies organizations or there are NGOs, who have inadvertently offered themselves to be used as tools of destabilization and what have you. Government has a responsibility to weigh in and rein in on them, but it's not enough to come up with, draconian regulations in the name of bills or legislation to ensure that you stifle the functions of the civil society. Because if that had happened, the 2022 Electoral Act?
Yes,
is a product of the civil society.
Yes.
Largely.
It's 99% civil society job. The Not Too Young to Run bill is a civil society legislation, and many such like. So what has happened is that the civil society have banded together in the name of the Situation Room. Okay.
Okay. I think we have to round up. Maybe I'll give you 30 seconds. He's talking about solutions, how we can change the narrative. Let me get your last line because
I think it's high time as a country that we begin to see we're supposed to move away from what can we benefit individually and what would posterity say about us when that time comes. What do we leave behind for the people that we're actually hoping that are going to take over from the positions that we are in currently? Because if we do not begin to look at the country holistically, and we keep looking at it in silos, we're going to keep having the same issues repeating themselves.
Okay, thank you very much, Mukhtar Suleiman, for that insight. Mukhtar Suleiman is a public affairs analyst joining us on the platform, and Emmanuel Osemeke is also a political affairs analyst. Together, we'll be looking at political campaign and the need to focus on the issues. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for talking to us. We look forward to seeing you in our next programs.
Thank you so much for having us.
And on behalf of the crew, the guests and the technical crew, my name is Shafiu Suleiman. Thank you very much for staying with us.